the video that I made a few years ago about my first manic episode, my first experience with mania from bipolar disorder, people still comment on that today, and a lot of people have been kind of seeming like they don't know very much about the disorder, and they might have been recently diagnosed. They want to know like what medications they can take, and it kind of makes sense to me that I should make a video talking about how I've gotten to where I'm at in life, as far as dealing with bipolar disorder and progressing with it. I've gotten to a place where I manage the disorder so much better than what I did even, 2 years ago, a year ago. I first had a manic episode a little over 4 years ago. It was my senior year of high school. The manic episode was so severe that, I had to go to the hospital. I was taken out of school. I wasn't allowed to really go back into school. I mean, partially by my parents, partially by teachers and just social pressure, but the cops even got involved at one point. It was I had a very severe case of mania, and my depression was severe as well at other times. I was suicidal a lot. I never necessarily made an attempt, but it was a thought that was common to me, years ago. So, and I've even had my therapist tell me that I'm one of the most severe cases of bipolar disorder that he's ever seen, in probably a couple decades of seeing patients. So I just figured it's time that I tell you guys in a video and give you what I did and how I got to the point where I'm at now, where I can live and be productive and have strong relationships with people and be happy, fulfilled, and enjoy life and love life. I think that's a place that everyone should have the ability to get to in life. Like, ideally, I think everyone deserves that. And it's a motivator for me when I see people commenting on those old videos I made, back when I first had my first experience from the symptoms of bipolar disorder, when it first manifested in me. I see people commenting on that video, so I just want to give you guys what I did. So when I first became manic, it was really a pleasant experience. I loved it. I had been, pretty depressed for maybe even a few years. Slowly the depression got worse and worse. I was more antisocial. I stayed at home, played video games. My life didn't really have anything in it that made me feel alive. And when I went manic, when I had my first manic episode, that was like the best time in my life, really, that I had had up until that point. Maybe my early childhood was really good too, but at that point when I was 18, it seemed like the best thing that had ever happened to me. And it was because I had been so depressed for the years leading up to that. And, the manic episode, like I said, it led to me being taken out of school, staying in the hospital for like a month or more combined, and, a couple or a few separate visits. It totally derailed my life. It took who I saw myself as and, in a lot of ways completely inverted it. I was really successful in school, kind of academically gifted. I didn't have problems meeting deadlines on assignments. I maybe turned in like 1 or 2 things late in like my whole school career pretty much, and up until like graduation of high school. And bipolar disorder just derailed all of that. It took the best things that I had, as far as like what I was doing in life, the few things that I could say that I was good at, and it took those things away from me. But I was left, in a manic state with, some really crazy thoughts and, a sense of euphoria a lot of the time. So, that was nice to feel, in a way, especially from being depressed. It's a lot better to feel manic most of the time. At least for me, I didn't really have the anger issues that a lot of people face with mania too. But anyway, all that went down and it derailed my life completely. And how I built it back up was I started listening to the advice of the medical professionals who treated me. And it's not like I wanted to do this. I just I slowly just kind of accepted that I needed to take a little bit of action and get back on track. But it was mainly at the start when I was manic. It was mainly family, friends, and those psychologists and psychiatrists who really got me to start taking the medication, take it regularly. And that was the first step, and I would say that is the most important step to living a life with bipolar disorder, to where you can be successful, you can be happy, and you can hardly even know that you have the disorder most of the time. That's that life that I just described there. It doesn't exist without medication, in my opinion. Maybe for a few people, but from everything that I've heard actual medical professionals tell me, or I've seen online, posted from reliable sources, bipolar disorder needs medication. And maybe there are alternative treatments out there, but I can testify I'm on one medication right now, carbamazepine. It's the generic form of Tegretol. It's actually a drug used primarily to prevent seizures, but I take that on a dose of 100 milligrams a day. It's a really low dose. The people who I go to for medications, they prescribe to a lot of people with bipolar disorder, and they can hardly, it's a little bit unbelievable that I'm on one medication. Most patients with bipolar disorder, when they're getting treated, even years down the road, they're probably taking at least 2, more likely 3 medications, sometimes 4, even more than that, just depending on the case and how the medications work for them. And those medications, when you're taking that many, they come with a lot of side effects, and it can make you not want to take the medications. And, that's why you have to be open with whoever's prescribing your medications. You have to have an open line of communication and trust that person. You have to trust them and tell them, this isn't working for me. I'm about to the point where I'm going to stop taking this. What can we do? How can we fix this problem? That was a key thing too. It's like, take the medication, listen to the advice of these people around you who care about you, or who it's their profession to care about you and try to help you. You listen to those people, but you also give feedback. You also tell them, man, I was suicidal last night. And I'm on all these medications, and I feel like I should be better, but I still want to kill myself. You keep that communication. You need to have someone you trust on your team, someone who is a professional, who has gone to school and learned, how to treat this disorder, an expert. You need to have an open line of communication with at least one or more of these experts in the medical world, and they're available to you, especially, in a country like the United States where I live. There is the care there available. So giving them feedback is a very important part to finding the right medication for you. When you find the right medication, that leads to the next steps to becoming a bipolar person, a person with bipolar disorder, who can live as if they don't have it, and even have a lot of levels of happiness that maybe people who are completely normal psychology or average psychology, no disorders or anything, those people might struggle to be that happy or fulfilled. So the medication comes first. Give feedback to the medical professionals you deal with so that you can find the right medication. Once you get there, then comes some changes in mindset. So by the time that you found the right medication, it took me probably at least 1.5 years, 2 years, maybe a little bit longer, 2.5 years, somewhere in that range, to find the medication where it worked perfect for me. So once that happened, I had to change my mindset. And it wasn't necessarily something I deliberately thought, okay, let's change my mindset. But I think taking the medication gave me the ability to start improving my life. And that was just something that came to me, like, naturally. Like, I'm going to start looking at the world in a better way. I'm not depressed and trying to kill I never tried to kill myself, but having suicidal thoughts all the time. I'm not going manic and having to be hospitalized and have my whole life thrown off the tracks. The medication leads to that. And then you change your mindset. You have a more positive outlook on life. That's something you kind of cultivate over time, or at least I did. And I think having a better mindset led to the next steps, which were I started having a better social life. That was a problem for me specifically. By the time all this medication stuff got figured out, I didn't really have that many friends, and I wasn't very productive. By the time it got figured out, I had wasted about a year and a half in school, probably like $25,000 of like money that I loaned for school and my parents' money that they paid to help me go to school. So all that went down the drain because I had my medication wrong. And it was very difficult to be a responsible person, to, do the things that you need to have a better life when you're struggling with those medication problems. So I would say mindset comes second after fixing the medication, finding the right medication. Then comes, integrate a good social life. Start to find friends and people with common interests, or just people you can spend time around who you enjoy. And that was very important to my growth and to my healing process. And, once that part of my life was a bit better, I started working. I took a semester off of school completely. And I just worked. And, one of the first job I got was at McDonald's. And I was working third shift and overtime. And it wasn't that great, but it was a step in the right direction. I always pictured more for myself than working at McDonald's or being forced to do that. But, when I was in that situation and my parents were like, well, if you're going to take time off school, we want you to still be doing something, so just go get a job. You don't have to pay us money, but go get a job and do something for yourself and with yourself. So having that job at McDonald's, obviously that wasn't right for me. So I tried other jobs and I got some better jobs and I started to enjoy them and become more engaged in work. And that led to the point where I found a job that I really enjoyed. And I started to take pride in that and I started to get good at it. And that working, being productive with your time, is so important for bipolar disorder, in my opinion. At least in my case, being active like that and doing something, your depression just goes down. You might think to yourself, at least for me, I might think to myself occasionally, like, man, I'm working a lot. I really wish I had a day off. But, on those days off, I'm usually a little bit less happy, or maybe quite a bit less happy than I am on the days that I'm working, that I'm moving around, that I'm doing something and progressing a little bit in life. So I really think it's important to find something you can do, like work, or maybe if you're really into school, or you have some talent or passion that you want to develop. Maybe you want to become a musician or a photographer or something. But all I'm saying is you need to be productive with a large part of your time and be moving towards a goal, or at least getting out and doing something. When you're sitting at home, relaxing, watching Netflix, just not doing anything with yourself, really, just kind of being there, engulfed in entertainment, it's not necessarily the best for you, or at least that's what I've seen with bipolar disorder. People with normal psychology, they might be able to do that a bit more, and it doesn't really affect them that negatively. But for me, having bipolar disorder, I've realized that my energy levels really just, they plummet really bad. They just go straight down. If I'm not working, if I'm not doing something with myself, they go straight down. And, I really kind of hated having to be productive at first. That year and a half where I was in college, I was in college, I went to my classes, but, I didn't really do much homework. I tried to do it as fast as I could, or, skim it, skip it, or just go to class and take the exam and hope that I was smart enough to do well, which sometimes that worked, but, the point is, I wasn't doing much with my time. I wasn't really putting effort into life. And I think working is such a great way to do that. And that leads to you really progressing in a lot of ways. And I just think it's really important for you to do that. You start to really gain more fulfillment. You feel better about where you're going in life. And I think work is probably the best way to do that. So that's pretty much all that I have to say for right now. I think those are some really good tips if you get your medication right by listening to the doctors that you have at your disposal, or and listening to your family as well, giving them feedback and working together with them to find the best solution for dealing with your disorder. And then that will allow you to gain a better mindset, feel better about life, gain some friends, get out there and do some things that make you feel better, and, get to a professional part of your life where you're working and being productive, doing things, or going to school and, doing well at that, something of that sort, something where you're putting effort into life. I think the more that you put into life, the more you get back, and I think if you follow those things, it will really help you. It helped me with my bipolar disorder tremendously. So, good luck, guys.